church that I once attended, it was the custom every year on this day for acolytes to process down the aisle carrying long red banners that represented the tongues of fire that descended upon Jesus' followers on the first Pentecost. The acolytes practiced carefully before the service every year, and they did that for a good reason. They had to manage a 12-foot pole while walking in a straight line, keeping an even distance from the person in front of them, and navigating the chancel steps. And at the same time, they had to wave a banner, a long banner, in a figure-8 pattern without whacking parishioners on the head, getting everything tangled up, or running into the paschal candle with a piece of polyester and accidentally creating a literal tongue of fire. So they always practiced, and it almost always turned out well in the end. I don't think we ever had to call the fire department. And along the same lines, we held a baptism rehearsal in this space yesterday. We talked about when to stand and sit, what to say when, where to go, and how, just to make sure everyone knew what to expect. If you'd walked into church during the rehearsal, you might have thought that all we were missing was the water. And rehearsing for a complicated church service is a perfectly sensible thing to do. But from another point of view, rehearsing for Pentecost is kind of missing the point, because we can't control the Holy Spirit. Jesus, in the Gospel of John, says, "The wind blows where it chooses, and you hear the sound of it, but you don't know where it comes from or where it's going. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit. The wind blows where it chooses, but you don't know where it comes from or where it goes." We can't control the Holy Spirit. So tempting to try, though, isn't it? There's been a lot of chatter in online church groups about ways to turn today into a new beginning for the church, a new Pentecost. As pandemic rules began to relax, a lot of us probably wished for the same thing. Let's get back to normal, or some mythical normal. Let's rip off our masks, pull out all the stops, bring everything back to the way it was in the good old days. And what day could be better to do that in the church than Pentecost, right? I'm sure we'll achieve a lot of return to something we might call normality in the weeks and months to come, in and out of church, and every bit of it will be a relief. But on this day, it's important that we remember that getting back to normal is not what Pentecost is about. Pentecost is about change. It's about transformation. It's about new understanding. It's about being sent out, commissioned, called to do God's work. The first Pentecost certainly wasn't a return to normal. The Holy Spirit descended upon the disciples. They spoke in words that people from all lands could understand. And then they went out into the world to proclaim the gospel. Their lives and their world were utterly transformed. The first Pentecost changed everything, and a new Pentecost surely would as well. But we can't control the Holy Spirit. We can't summon Pentecost on demand. The fire of Pentecost is a wildfire, a scary fire, a fire that says that resurrection is a beginning, not an end. The fire of Pentecost is a gift, but it's also a voice that tells us that we have work to do. Jesus said in today's gospel, "I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now." That will probably always be true for each of us. There will always be things we aren't ready to hear, changes we aren't ready to make, words we cannot yet bear. But we can listen for the voice of the Spirit. We can try to hear the next thing the Spirit is saying to us, and the next, and the next. The Holy Spirit is always a surprise. Pentecost was a surprise. Even though Jesus told his disciples that the day would come, they didn't really believe it, couldn't believe it until they experienced it. Come, Holy Spirit, come. Pray that prayer if you dare, but pray it knowing that what the Spirit brings may not be what you expect. Most of us would prefer a gentle breeze to a violent wind, a candle to a tongue of fire. But we can't control the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit, come. It's a risky prayer, a bold prayer. In my experience, the Spirit usually does work quietly, a whisper in the ear, a presence we may not recognize until we look back to see where we've come from. But there's always the possibility of something more dramatic. There's always that chance of fire. In this time in which so much is changing at Bethesda and in the world around us, let us remember the true shape of Pentecost. Let us remember that we can trust the Spirit's call. We know that the Spirit will come, but we don't know when and how. We know that God will be with us. God will be with you, but maybe not in the ways you expect. Maybe not at the moment we hoped for. On this Pentecost, let the Holy Spirit work. Let the Spirit lead this community, and let the Spirit lead you. As we renew our baptismal vows, as we join around the holy table, as we walk out into the world, may we all dare to pray, come, Holy Spirit, come.